okay, I understand. You can't speak. What? Greetings, fellow fans of film and fiction, and Jesus Christ, it feels good to be doing that salute again. Yeah, I know it's been a long time, just calm down about it, yeah? Everyone's got their reasons. I'm talking to you specifically, you know who you are, you who keep bugging me about this, Lucy Hacker and Paul Coggins, you know who you are, that was subtle. But yeah, it has been about a month since I've done one of these, and even then it was only my first one, so I've sort of fallen out of sync, even if I hadn't really gotten in sync in the first place. So you might have to bear with me while I get back into the flow. But anyway, enough of that bollocks, we're here for a reason, and what is that reason? To talk about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, but we can't do that because you don't know what happened at the end of the last one, except you probably do because everyone watching this video has probably seen the first one, but oh well, we'll talk about it anyway. Go! Recap. So at the end of the Philosopher's Stone, Harry, Ron and Hermione decide to go to the third floor corridor, sneak down under the trap door. Underneath, they reckon, is where the Philosopher's Stone is being kept. They go down there, they do tons of little challenges and stuff, which are basically just there to show that each character has merit. Like, Hermione has this awesome knowledge of plant life from paying attention in herbology. Harry's brilliant on a broom still, so it shows that he's, like, physically skilled. And Ron can play chess, apparently. That's good. Anyway, it ends up that Harry has to go into the final room on his own. So when he gets there, he finds out who's been behind this whole dastardly plot. No, not Professor Snape. Fooled you. It was Professor Quirrell. Remember that bloke I hardly mentioned before? He was just a little, like, weedy guy who, like, later turned out to be the sort of, come here, Potter! Anyway, so he's sort of under the control of Voldemort because he's got Voldemort's face in the back of his head, which you couldn't see because he had a turban on. So Voldemort tries to get Harry to join him by being like, ooh, I can bring your parents back from the dead. And Harry's all like, you liar! Harry gets out with the Philosopher's Stone, and when Professor Quirrell tries to stop him, he finds that he can't touch his skin, and dies. He crumples into stone and dust and dies. Then Harry gets out and has a word with Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's like, your mother, when she died for you, she left this kind of love spell around you, which meant that any of Voldemort's attacks on him would just repel back off onto himself. And then they all win the House Cup and everyone goes home for the summer and it's all happily ever after. Woo! Alright, that's that shit done with. Let's get on with the proper stuff. The plot. Okay, there's a lot of plot to get through, so let's see how quickly I can do this. So Harry's back at home with his evil aunt and uncle and cousin, and he has to spend all his time alone in his room, and he wants to let Hedwig, his owl, out of her cage, but he can't, because, as he says, underage wizards aren't allowed to do magic outside of school.
Oculus Reparo.
His little house elf called Dobby comes to Harry, and house elves are basically slaves to wizard families. But Dobby has gone against them for like the first time ever to come and tell Harry Potter, no, you can't go back to Hogwarts, because there's a plot, which means terrible things will happen at Hogwarts. Ron and two of his cheeky chappy brothers, twins called Fred and George, bust Harry out of the house and drive him over to their house, which is called the Burrow. There we meet Molly Weasley, Ron's mum, Arthur Weasley, Ron's dad, and Ginny Weasley, Ron's little sister. All together they go to Diagon Alley to get some supplies, where they meet for the first time, like he's all looking down on the Weasleys because they're poor. He's like, oh, hand-me-down robes. He takes a book and she's like, oh, you've got hand-me-down books too, and look at your faces, they're all freckly, you're Weasleys, you shit. And then he has to go at Arthur because Arthur's interested in muggles and he's all like, ugh, muggles are shit compared to wizards. So now we know where Draco gets his dickishness from. God, a lot happens in this film. I'm like 15 minutes in. They go to the train station to leave for Hogwarts, but for some reason Ron and Harry can't get through the barrier that they have to get through to get to the right platform. So they end up taking their dad's flying car and driving to Hogwarts, crushing themselves into a tree called a Whomping Willow that's like bashing the shit out of them. But yeah, they get out safe and sound, but uh-oh, all is not as it seems. Students whose parents are muggles, that means Hermione, are getting frozen solid, or petrified. And Professor McGonagall says that Salazar Slytherin, who was one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts, hated Muggleborns, and so he was trying to get them kicked out of the school. So he built this chamber called the Chamber of Secrets, where one day his heir would release what is inside the chamber, a massive Gurret fucking monster, to come out and get rid of all the Muggleborns. And oh my gosh, it's happening now. Harry realises he has a parcel mouth, which means he can speak parcel tongue, which means he can talk to snakes, which is something that only Salazar Slytherin could do, and therefore only his heirs could do. So is Harry the heir of Slytherin? Is he the one that's making all these terrible things happen? Oh no, it couldn't possibly be, because he's the main character. So obviously, Harry, Ron and Hermione jump to the conclusion, boom, it's Malfoy, because he's a dick. Harry finds out that Dobby was actually trying to help Harry all along, and he was the one not letting him go through the barrier at platform 9 3/4. This because there's some serious shit going on at the school, and Dobby didn't want him to be there, so nice Dobby, actually. Although stupid Dobby, because he like almost got him killed a couple times. The gang goes to an abandoned girls' bathroom for reasons, and when they get there, they find this ghost called Morning Myrtle. And Morning Myrtle tells them that there's this book that's been chucked at her. So Harry takes a look at this book, and it is the Diary of Tom Marvolo Riddle. But it's empty. So Harry decides to write in it, and whatever he writes, a response comes written on the page. This is Tom Marvolo Riddle responding to him. So this Tom bloke sucks Harry into the book and shows him a vision of Hogwarts like 50 years ago. And whoa, not expecting this! But the Chamber of Secrets was open then as well. In fact, the monster got out and a girl died. So Tom shows Harry how he, Tom, brought the killer to justice. Except, it is Hagrid. And then, woe of woes, Hermione gets petrified, and nobody really cares because it's Hermione. So in retaliation, the Ministry of Magic sends Hagrid off to a prison called Azkaban, and the Board of Governors, under the wing of Lucius Malfoy, tells Dumbledore he has to step down as headmaster. Can Ron and Harry figure out what is going on, and who is the heir of Slytherin, and how to stop him, and what is in the chamber, and where is the chamber, and how to make everyone come back, before it is too late? Yes! But I mean, you knew that. Hermione wasn't going to die, was she? Pity. And if that wasn't enough, there was also this whole little subtle subplot running all the way through that you have to be looking very closely to recognise. Someone has cast an anti-aging spell on all of the students at the school. What do you mean you didn't notice it? It's blatant. Look, this is them at the start of the year. And this is them at the end of the year. Jesus fuck, that was a lot of plot. This is a review, I'm meant to be reviewing it, so let's get on with the review please, thanks. The bad. I'm back now, looking less angelic because I got the light on, but I got a cup of coffee, so that's okay. And I really burnt my mouth and hit me. Oh. Okay, so let's again start with the obvious. The plot. So while the last one, Philosopher's Stone, had like self-contained adventures going on, a lot of what happens in Chamber of Secrets is building up the plot. And I guess that can be seen as a good thing, but if you're watching like your favourite TV show and you've got a whole series dedicated to one idea, wouldn't you rather have self-contained episodes where individual things happen? And yes, there are things that happen in this one, like the car flying scene, or the spiders in the forest, but it loses a bit of the whole kind of quirky kids on an adventure feel. Although that might be because the film itself is starting to get slightly more adult. And yes, I'm aware that they said that for every single Harry Potter film when it came out. Oh, this one's a lot darker than the last one. Well, eventually if you keep saying that, you reach a point of diminishing returns. The whole idea that children are being attacked in hate crimes is a bit, you know, a bit less fun than, there is a troll! It's quite a dark idea, you know? That the lead character, the film's representation of you, the viewer, doesn't know whether he's a good or evil person. It's quite a scary bit. I was considering really hard putting this whole thing in the good section, but I think what made the first one great is that it feels very magical and light-hearted. And this film is like the first one where it starts to really lose that. And as the first one got away with not being a perfect film, because it was so light-hearted and child-friendly, the fact that it's slightly more adult doesn't really bode well for Chamber of Secrets. Their audience is a year older, so the writers had decided to bring in a bit of humour. Some of the humour is quite funny, but it's generally touch and go. Like for instance, in order to make this film funnier, they take Ron's character, who has this massive moment at the end of the last film where he sacrifices himself in order to let Harry go on and save the day. His entire character sort of got downgraded to like scared sidekick. What could have been a really quite scary sequence with Harry and Ron talking to a giant spider while slowly spiders creep in around them gets absolutely cheapened because Ron is just there going, it just really cheapens it, and it's sad. I mean, it's a shame, because, like, Rupert Grint does well with it. He goes the whole hog. He doesn't, like, hold himself back or anything. He really puts himself out there as this weedy kid, and he sells it quite well. It's just a shame that they decided to make his character like that. And it's been ages since I read the book. Maybe the same happens in the book. I don't know. I just think that in the book and the film, in that case, it didn't have to make him that character. Particularly given that he was such a hero at the end of the last film. Now, as we're already talking about acting, let's get on to a bit more of it. Gilderoy Lockhart is now the new Defence Against the Dark Arts teacher. The whole point of his character is that he's meant to be brash and loving himself and everything, so why not cast someone who's sort of a bit younger? Instead they get Kenneth Branagh, again a theatre-trained Shakespeare actor. Why are these awesome actors playing these really so-so characters? Lockhart spends the entire film just being annoying, and you, along with Harry and Ron, dislike him for this. But not in a good way, in a kind of, okay, get him off the screen sort of way. Right at the end, something happens to him, and he's a bit funnier, but it's only for like one scene. Not bothered, get him out of it. Talking of people being cast at the wrong age, Shirley Henderson, who plays Moaning Myrtle, is meant to be like a sort of 15, 16-year-old girl. She's 37. The problem with adults playing children is that they always seem to follow the same strategy of acting childish. No, Moaning Myrtle's not supposed to be a particularly grown-up character. She puts on a really high voice and talks all like this. She's not a cockney, so I don't know why I'm doing that. But don't do that voice. That's like what all adult actors do when they play children, and it's just annoying because no child speaks like that. Like I said, Rupert Grint, who plays Ron Weasley, is improving as an actor, and that's awesome. Hermione's character is still a know-it-all, but a bit more of a close friend. Annoyingly, Emma Watson's still sort of playing her quite on the nose, I'm better than you. But she's getting there. Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry on the other hand, just appears to be getting worse. When he's not being incredibly wooden, he's taking breaths in between each and every syllable. Who needs to breathe that much?
Okay, I understand. You can't say.
You don't need to breathe that much. You're okay, you're not going to pass out. I'd love to talk again about Neville Longbottom or Draco Malfoy, but neither of them have very much to do in this film, because it's all a lot more kind of plot-based than character-based. Which in and of itself I think is a bit of a downfall in my opinion. Anyway, that's all the bad I can do without this getting ridiculously long, so let's just move on. The good. Again, the acting's not all terrible. We're introduced to some awesome new characters. There's Arthur Weasley, played by Mark Williams, Ron's dad, who is actually genuinely funny, Molly Weasley, played by Julie Walters, Ron's mum, who's like the perfect cuddly friend of your mum's, who always seems to be treating you more nicely than she's treating her children. That's actually done really well. And then there's Lucius Malfoy, and he's awesome, played by Jason Isaacs. He's got this awesome snake-like quality to him, in that he's never actually malicious, but you can tell that underneath all that, he's a proper arse face. And of course, Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Absolutely perfect, obviously. Yep, 10 years later, still depressed about that. Ooh! Dobby! We have to mention Dobby. Dobby is possibly the best character in this film. I've got plenty of other new characters who will continue reoccurring, but aren't particularly all that memorable. Ginny, I'm looking at you. I'd class him as more humorous than funny, because, like, you'd watch him and be like, but you'd never actually properly laugh. And obviously, he just steals every scene he's in with Daniel Radcliffe. Dobby is completely computer-generated, and he looks awesome. He looks slightly less awesome when you remember that Smeagol, or Gollum, in The Two Towers came out at, like, basically the exact same time. So Dobby doesn't quite stand up to that, but he's so much better than the troll and all the crap that was in the last film. There are some other monsters that come into this film, and they're a lot better than the last film. There's the giant spiders, the Whomping Willow, and another thing that I'm not going to say because it's a spoiler. And they all look far better than anything in the first film that's CGI. Even the Quidditch match is more exciting. It feels like more of a set piece, because Draco and Harry end up chasing the snitch underneath the pitch, while the bludger, which is a ball in Quidditch that's been tampered with, is going after Harry to kill him. And you don't really care as much about the whole Quidditch doesn't make sense thing, because it's much more exciting than the last one was. The main spider is called Aragog, and he is terrifying. Admittedly, again, a big, massive, scary spider came out in the next Lord of the Rings film only a year later, and it looked a lot better than Aragog does here. But I don't care, Aragog still freaks me out. Harry and Ron are talking to him while he's talking back, and like his eyes are just staring, unblinking, black, like 6 of them. It's really creepy. But of course the sequence gets ruined by Ron doing his thing. Aragog gets a thumbs up. Again, I can't say why, but the ending is cool. Anyone who says they were expecting the end of the first film was lying. Anyone who says they expected the end of this film was lying. And there's a massive action sequence that I haven't talked about that is even more terrifying than the Aragog one. It's proper edgier seat stuff. Okay, so this is a tough one. From that, did I like it or did I hate it? It could go either way. The verdict. And it will. Chamber of Secrets was my least favourite Harry Potter book for quite a few years. So when I watched the second film for the first time, I didn't go in expecting too much. And I remember really loving it. In fact, for years, when I heard people saying that they thought Chamber of Secrets was the worst, I never got it. Now watching it again, sadly, it's not that great. The humour's subpar, they raped a character, Lockhart's annoying, the acting's shit, and Snape is hardly in it. The fact that it's starting to get a bit dark could have gone really well for it. But what with all the attempts at humour all the way through, it just kind of seemed like they didn't really know what tone to go for. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets not bad, not brilliant. So if you disagree with it, put it in a comment. If you do agree with it, put it in a comment. If you love me because I'm brilliant and you're attracted to me, which honestly, it'd be weird if you weren't, then like and subscribe. And as a final thought, some of you may well know that I enjoy the odd cigarette from time to time, and I'm also aware that I've left you having to wait for videos quite a lot, so I make you this pledge. Every Tuesday, from the moment I wake up until the video is uploading, I will not have a single schmigarette. Now that might not not seem like very much, but it means that if I end up being a week and a half late, or a month late in this case, I will not be able to have a cigarette for a week and a half, or a month. So now, I can basically guarantee I will get it done in time in the future. There you go, you won't get a video, I won't get a cigarette, everybody fucking wins. So I'll be back soon for an update, and then next Tuesday for the Prisoner of Azkaban review. Fair morrow, fellow fans of film and fiction, stay geeky. My salute feels weird. Oh well, probably don't worry about it.